everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hope not too many people had to get up at 5 a.m. like me and Anjali and Pranil to get here on time, right? Hopefully everybody had an awesome breakfast and are ready for the festivities here today. And for most of you that are new to this conference, it's called the Phoenix Mobile Festival, organized by myself, Pranil and Anjali. I'm Kiran Mudian, you can see me. And Pranil is the CTO of Mokria, and Anjali is at Choice Hotels. And without any further delay, we'd like to start and introduce the whole conference to you, and we get to the keynote in a couple of minutes. So we have an absolutely amazing set of speakers lined up for you guys. Some of them are familiar faces, Phoenix Mobile Festival speakers from earlier, but there's lots of new speakers as well. And lots of local speakers. There's speakers that wanted to fly in from Chicago that got stuck up in Chicago, like Greg Bowes. He was sleepless in Chicago last night. He's like, oh man, what do I do? And so he actually sent us a small video to say his apologies and how he can make up for him not being here. So I'll get to that in a minute. And if I miss somebody's name incorrectly, please pardon me. And we have a great set of sponsors too. Intel is our platinum sponsor, along with Apollo Group, which is where we are. Apollo Group is University of Phoenix. They own University of Phoenix and other properties in the educational domain. And Software Ops is the one to thank for all the breakfast and lunch and all the food that you see here. So, and we have a great set of other sponsors too. I'll go into detail in a second. So Intel, I'm not going to say anything more than leave the slide here. Everybody should know about Intel by now, otherwise you're at the wrong conference. And they're a great sponsor. One note I want to say is that they are going to be giving out or raffling 10 Intel tablets at their session. So definitely check it out. And it's going to be a great presentation. And who doesn't want a great tablet, right? I don't think it's an iPad, but it's an Intel tablet. And a shout out to our venue sponsor. Hey, Brian. Brian is looking at me here. And he is our contact here at University of Phoenix. He helped us get this event organized here locally in this venue, which is really nice because we get 101 and 102 all lined up. And Infusionsoft is our gold sponsor, the primary gold sponsor. And we have the CTO of Infusionsoft giving us the keynote, talking about mobile, giving us the enthusiasm about what mobile is. I'll try my best to tell you how much mobile landscape is or market is. I'll give you a couple of numbers in a second. But they're a local company. And if you don't know about them, you should. If you're a small business, you should definitely know what they do. Microsoft needs no introduction. Everybody should have a Microsoft machine, or if they have a Mac, they're probably running Microsoft in Parallels or VirtualBox or something else. So they're a sponsor here. We have Michael Palermo from Microsoft giving his talk, and they've always been a great sponsor for the Phoenix Mobile Festival. So a shout out to them. And Rarity is a new sponsor. They're a local company here that is in the venture business. So if any of you are entrepreneurs that would love to get funded, so those are people that you should definitely check out. There are a few of those folks. They don't have a booth, but you should definitely network with them and figure out who they are and talk to them if you want to get some funding. And Code Red is another gold sponsor. They are the makers of the Binary Assassin. I'm not a gamer, so I don't know what that means, but I think I know that it's a first-person shooter game. So that's pretty good. That's the whole gaming there. I don't do any gaming. So they're a local company. And if you guys, if you want to get into gaming and are looking for a job, that's the place that you might want to try and see what they have to offer. Twilio. So Twilio is another gold sponsor. As I mentioned, Greg was sleepless in Seattle last night with all the planes being diverted. He said about 1,000 planes. So I have a short video that he has sent us, like he sent it to me last night. So as part of this, I let him do the talking, but to make up for him not being able to come here, he's decided to raffle a drone, a quadcopter. I shouldn't say a drone. That's a bad word these days. Quadcopter is good. For anybody that wins an SMS-based trivia game that he has created on their platform. So let me try to make this click, and let's go to the video. So that's the quadcopter that he's raffling out. It's $300, so it's
Hey everyone, my name's Greg. I serve as the developer evangelist for Twilio. And as you can see, I am in fact not in Phoenix with you right now. You may have heard, but yesterday somebody decided to set fire to one of the FAA's radar facilities about 40 minutes outside of Chicago, which resulted in about 2,000 flights being canceled. And unfortunately, mine was one of them. So instead of coming out there and talking about Twilio, I was going to give a talk about how we make it easy to send and receive text messages and place and receive phone calls, and how with about 6 lines of code in your language of choice, you can have access to billions, literally billions of devices across the globe. But we couldn't do that today. So what I did instead is set up this game. It's a game we've been running at a lot of events recently. It's called Trivio. It's Jeopardy by SMS, by text message. And we're going to award a prize for those of you trivia buffs out there. For the one who scores the most points, we're going to award a quadricopter, about a $300 quadricopter, in honor of my flight problems today. So if you'd like to play, I ask you to pull out your cell phone and send a text to this number that's on the screen here.
Do it right now.
It is 480-405-1669. Again, that's 480-405-1669. And if you missed that number, you can find it at trivio.io. If you text that number, it's also going to send you back a promo code for $20 in credit. So you can play around with sending and receiving text messages. And we also just launched picture messages, MMS last week. We're really excited about that. You can also send and receive animated GIFs among all sorts of other fun things. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful time. I'm so sorry that I can't be there with you. If you have any questions, I'm at GreggyB on Twitter or gb@twilio.com, and I hope you all have a wonderful time at Phoenix Mobile Festival. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Greg. So anybody that didn't get the number, go ahead again, 480-405-1669. Hopefully I didn't cut and paste error or anything like that. So we're good. So just a few brief numbers I want to throw at you guys. I know mobile is big. We don't know how big it is, so 2 numbers to think about. $5 billion and $10 billion. $5 billion was the amount of revenue that Google reported in the last 12 months as of those numbers that are from Benedict Evans. And $10 billion was the revenue that Apple had in the same amount of time. So those are big numbers, and you are in the right place at the right time to take advantage of the market that has been created by Apple and everybody on it. So welcome to the mobile market. And we have a great set of sessions. One of the things I wanted to mention is, I know we've had last-minute changes all over the place. To make it easy for you guys this time, we have built the Phoenix mobile application, which you can download onto your mobile device. 2 of the main platforms that I concentrated on getting the app, which is Android and iOS. So we have a great set of sessions, 3 tracks, and of course, first the keynote. To get the Phoenix mobile application, that's the easiest way to get it. So I put it up there. If you don't have it, you should have it. One of the things I want to say why you should have it is we've integrated in a way to get the speakers' feedback on their sessions. So I'll talk about it in a minute. If you guys want to get the app, it's bit.ly/phxmobiapp. I don't know if the QR code works these days. I think QR code is so 2011 or 12, I don't know. Nowadays, it's something else. So how do you rate sessions? Obviously, Joe Michael is one of my favorite speakers. I chose him as an example. I want to show this because when we put the app out and gave it to beta testers, and they rated the session, and I go, where? They're missing. I'm like, what? What did you do? What did you do to break my app? And so I just want to point out that after you put the stars and put the comments, press the rated button. That's a button. And actually, we've put a new build into Apple, but it couldn't be released in time. But again, thanks to Apple for allowing us to send in 2 expedited reviews to get the app launched. So this is the first version that we submitted. And so there you have it. So press the rated button, and you see the grade. Thanks for rating the session. And obviously, if you change your mind afterwards, you can come back in and give me more stars if you want. But 5 is the max. So make sure you see that. On the Android platform, it's much easier because I didn't have to go through Google. We just made sure it's very prominent and the button is clickable and all that stuff. So we love feedback. Use it from the mobile app as well as do it on Twitter too. And the hashtag for this conference is, hashtags are never going away, by the way. They're going to be in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15 until somebody else comes out with something else. But for now, we're going to use the PHX Mobi hashtag, and you can tweet about the happenings here, talk to people, meet new people, and celebrate the festival. And we have raffles at 5 p.m. I want to mention that there are quite a number of devices. There are some watches, there are some tablets, 2 watches, and 2 tablets, and 2 phones. No phones, right? All tablets, basically. Well, phones are tricky here, right? Because you have to get a contract and all that stuff. So we didn't want to mess with that. So we're doing all tablets and wearable devices. So make sure you've picked up your raffle ticket and be here by 5 o'clock so when we do the raffle. And obviously, there'll be other raffles going on by the individual companies as well. They might choose to do them during their session or randomly at different places. I know Microsoft would love to do theirs at their session, so definitely check them out. And after the raffles at 5, we have a happy hour or networking event. I know some people don't like happy hour, but networking or happy hour, that's why I put it there to be politically correct. So we head over to Conference G. That's what I've been told this place is called. It's exactly 2.7 miles from here. University of Phoenix calls Gallagher's Conference Room G. So everybody here in the University of Phoenix knows what Conference Room G is. We're going to head over there and have a networking event. And there might be some surprises there too. So definitely don't want to miss it out. And I put a small map here. It's just a straight shot. You can't go any past that because baseline ends. Baseline is baseline. That's it. You can't go farther. So, and the organizers, I want to just make sure you guys are aware. Mokria is the CTO. Pranil is the CTO, and I work at Trimble Outdoors. I run engineering there, and I took the liberty to have my designer design assets for the app and design the T-shirt and all that stuff. So kudos to Trimble Outdoors to help me design assets and all that stuff. Thank you. And we, the Phoenix Mobi Meetup, we are the ones that are organizing this event. We meet on the 3rd Thursday of the month, and most of you who are already know about the meetup, come and check us out. New people, definitely get on the meetup group and look for upcoming meetups. And without any further delay, I'd like to introduce the CTO of Infusionsoft, Mark.
Good morning. That was totally weak. Totally. All right. Let's try something a little bit unusual. But for all the technologists that I've ever known, they're mostly night owls, not morning glories. And so let's everybody stand up right where you're at. Stand up right now. All right. Maybe even have a little stretch. Don't hit your neighbor. But all right. Get the blood flowing. Okay. I know there's no Starbucks on site here. But some of you went through the drive-through. And oh, in the cafeteria there is Starbucks. Okay. All right, go ahead and have a seat. And let's give this another shot, okay? All right, all the way in the back, and all the way in the middle, and in the front. Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, I'm Mark Chesley. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft builds sales and marketing automation software for small businesses. It's like Salesforce.com plus Marketo or some other marketing automation bolt-on, but for small businesses. Our best customers have fewer than 25 employees, and we love that space. In fact, we say we're stubbornly small business. We're not going upstream anytime soon at all, if ever. So we're here in Chandler. We are about 13 years old, about 10 years old in the form the company's in now. And we're just about up to 600 employees and growing like crazy. And I'm honored to be asked to give the keynote here at the Phoenix Mobile Festival today. So thank you. All right. I'm at Guitar Lawyer on Twitter. And we have the hashtag PhoenixMobi that was just announced also. Okay, when I was a kid, long time ago, I would try to get sheet music. I play guitar lawyer, no surprise. So it was hard to come by. This is back in the 80s, all right? And I would have to go to the record store, and I would sit there at the stand and look at sheet music and memorize it there because I didn't have any money to try to get information. It was ridiculously difficult. I had to get a ride into town to the music store and then sit there at the stand and read it and try to memorize it there to then go back and play it on my guitar. There we go. Right. Come on, that's great 80s hair. Come on, right? Right? Yeah, like my bands are Metallica and Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Megadeth and Rat, and I don't see very many heads nodding around it. Yeah, okay, there's some horns back there, right? Okay, nice. All right. So like that's how I grew up. That was my generation, and I loved it. And I would try to get this sheet music at any place that I could, and it was just crazy hard. I would have to sit there and just try to memorize it all the time. It was just, it took forever, and it was difficult. Well, I'm really a technologist at heart. Because I love music, I wanted the thumping stereo, and so when I was a teenager, I started installing high-end car audio, and anybody remember those? Yeah, that's called a cassette deck. Audio cassette. That's an ancient artifact now, but that I love that glow of that light on the dashboard. And I've been in a lot of dashboards. We used to have a lot of fun tearing apart cars to put in the car audio. Well, I love technology. In fact, I'll tell you a little funny story. This morning, I was shaving. I have a Braun electric razor, and I love it. It's the best razor I've ever had. And this morning, I was shaving in the mirror, and I was thinking, you know what? I love technology. And it went zzzz. And so if you come up and say hi to me today, you'll notice that I'm half shaved. So maybe it's good the camera's all the way back in the middle. And then I thought, damn, technology, you know. But I love technology. I'm really a technologist at heart. And when I went to college, I got my first computer. And I was so excited to get this computer. Called a Legend. Some of you are smiling back there seeing these types of computers. And in those days, nobody had a printer. Oh, it wasn't even a 286 or 386 or 46 Pentium, anything past that. It was an XT Turbo. It was an 8008. All right, how many of you know what that is? Give me your hand. Oh, okay, awesome. All right. Kindred. So like that barely even looked like a memory chip these days, but that was the CPU back then, right? Well, it had a 5 1/4 floppy disk drive. That's also an ancient artifact, right? And nobody had printers in those days. You had to go to the printer lab at the university to print, and the only type of drives that they had there were the 3.5-inch drives. And my computer didn't have one. And so I noticed, in fact, let me just back up a couple. I noticed that right underneath my 5 1/4, there was an empty space. I thought, man, I could upgrade this thing. And I'm no stranger to turning a screwdriver and plugging in wires. And so I thought, okay, well, I need to get a 3.5-inch floppy drive, and I'm going to upgrade my computer. So I went to Radio Shack, and that was a disaster. And it was going to cost almost as much as the computer was worth, and I don't know where they got those numbers, but that didn't work. And I was a poor student, and so I went to Safeway, and some of you might remember these types of magazines. That mostly don't exist anymore, but there used to be a whole row of computer magazines up on the back of the magazine stand, and I got the Computer Shopper magazine, and they're like huge format, that big, and they're always, every month they're like that thick with advertisements, and I ordered a 3.5-inch floppy drive. And when I did, I took the lid off of my computer, and I had an amazing thing happen. It's like angels shot out of that computer and sang Hallelujah chorus. I looked inside the computer and was just smitten. I fell in love with computers, and I knew that I had really found my path. That was just I remember it right now and feeling it just as I'm speaking it. That was such an impactful moment for me as a technologist and putting me on the path where I'm at today too. Okay, so then I upgraded it to a 386 SX16. Okay, that was a killer chip compared to the XT Turbo, right? Then to get this, 486 DX266. Man, that baby would crush, right? So why am I going through all this old guy tech stuff, all right? Well, all of this generation of technology, it enabled the internet. And the internet really has changed the whole world. In fact, we're at a mobile summit today, and mobile really wouldn't exist without connectivity and the internet. And so this was a huge milestone in terms of technology evolution to get computers to the place, and routers and all the supporting infrastructure and fiber to be able to have a connected network that we now call the internet. Okay, so that was that generation of technology, and now there's a new generation of technology, and mobile has created a new type of entrepreneur. Just think of all the entrepreneurs that were hugely successful in impacting the world back in the early PC era and as the internet was getting off the ground. Remember the bubble, all that, right? Well, it produced a ton of entrepreneurs, and I love entrepreneurs. The reason Infusionsoft exists is to help small businesses succeed. That's our purpose. That's why we exist. And so I dig entrepreneurs big time. And now there's a new kind of entrepreneur, and that's the developer, and specifically the mobile developer. All of you. Okay, so let's, we talked about a few of these numbers a minute ago during the introductions. Different sources, but pretty much the same numbers. Wish we had a little more contrast on this. Maybe there's a laser. I love lasers. There. Desktops and laptops are plateauing and have for quite a while. No surprise. Handhelds, or tablets rather, and then handhelds is just spiking worldwide. Okay, and that's no surprise to anybody here, but that's unprecedented. That type of hockey stick growth, and it represents a huge opportunity and a huge responsibility. I connect those two words. opportunity and responsibility. Because if you don't, then you're just chasing dollars, and that's pretty hollow at the end of the day, right? It's really a responsibility, too, to take the opportunity we have with the amount of technology and mobile really starting to come into its own now and make a difference in the world. So in my view, like if the technology life cycle for mobile computing was a baseball game, with 9 innings, right? We're about in the middle of the national anthem. I mean, it's early, and there is a ton of opportunity and responsibility to make a difference here. Okay, this is a great experiment, Shutkar Mitra, a hole in the wall. You should Google that sometime. It's a super interesting study and experiment that he did. He put a computer and a touchpad in right there in the wall in a little village in India, and connected it. In about a few hours, the kids figured it out. No instruction. It was in English. They didn't know English. In a few hours, they figured it out. And that's the type of impact that the interfaces that people are being able that you can come up with today can have to really accelerate technology adoption. And it's no wonder that we're seeing that hockey stick effect in the mobile and the handheld and the tablet adoption across the technology world. All right, with mobile, it'll change lives, it inspires, and it empowers. Okay, who's ever heard of HealthTap? Okay, you should check it out. It's very cool. They let people, little app, right? And they let people ask doctors and healthcare professionals questions. Now, that may not seem like a big deal because we live in America. But that's a huge deal around the world. And so far, I updated a slide from a few weeks ago when I first put it on, and they've saved, and there's a little asterisk there so you can they validate it. Over 16,000 lives because of their mobile app. This app isn't just changing lives; it's saving lives. Let's go to the next slide here. There we go. All right. So I had to update it again from a few weeks ago when I first made the slide. That's how many questions are being asked and answered by doctors and healthcare professionals from people all around the world. And there's a couple examples right there. They're up to 63,000 doctors and healthcare professionals. Medicine is going to completely change. How many of you have one of these? Yeah. Or something like it, Fitbit, or another brand of pretty much the same thing. Yeah, or the watch. Yeah, nice watch. Mm-hmm. Want to model that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a session in the evening.
All right, don't miss Anjali's session later. All right. So, I got this a few months ago, and I've loved it, and it's made me more healthy. If I'm sitting at my desk, shining my chair with my butt for most of the day, hands on keyboard, then this thing will say, "Mark, get up and go. Go, Mark. Go, Mark. Go, Mark." Gives me a little message, right? And then some little lights blink, and I love blinking lights, like all good technologists do, right? And so I see that, and my phone will buzz at the same time, and I'll say, well, I better go walk around and say hi to somebody for a minute. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg with remote diagnostic tools that are being invented and the ability to get information from somebody in a village to send back to some lab to then send back some type of a diagnosis to help the healthcare worker out in the field. I mean, that's the type of stuff that's coming that's going to increase all of the prosperity of the entire world, and it's right here, right now, and mobile is really facilitating it. Without mobile, none of this would be really possible to have this remote type of medical care that's really on the edge of just busting out. Okay, this actually doesn't have anything to do with anything, nothing, but I thought it was super funny. So what is this? What do you think that is? Skulls, right, yeah. So my brother's a radiologist, and he sent this to me 6 or 8 months ago, and he goes, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know what. I was IMing him, and he said, that's a radiologist selfie. So I thought that was hilarious. So I'm talking about medical, so I thought I'd throw that in, right? Okay, but when will the day come when tricorder-like diagnostic happens, where you take out your handheld and you go to your X-ray app and you do this, and the radiologist on the other side of the world says, oh, it's X, Y, or Z. That's coming, okay? And you should welcome that and realize that's coming. Okay, so enough fun with my brother. Okay, I love rock stars, as you can imagine. Stones, oh, those are great. I just saw Def Leppard Kiss a couple weeks ago. But there's a new type of rock star now. Recognize those guys? Or him? Yeah. Yeah, it's a new generation of people who are really able, through media, mass media, and the internet and technology, change the world. So, embarrass Anjali a little bit right here. Mobile inspires. I'm inspired by Anjali Nanelli. Okay, why? Well, for a ton of reasons, all that you see here listed, but also I have 4 daughters. Even my dog is a female. So I am just, I joke sometimes that I have estrogen poisoning in my house, right? And I am all about girl power, big time. I kind of have no choice, but I love it anyway. And, everybody just look around and just do an informal survey of how many women are here at the conference, okay? Right? Yeah? And welcome all of you amazing, powerful women. Yeah? Here, let's give a round for the women here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm here to tell you, especially you guys, that we need more diversity in technology. We need it. Okay, diversity makes everything better. Okay? And you should be looking for, recruiting, training, encouraging, welcoming all types of beautiful people into the technology world, because that makes everybody stronger and better and faster. With more perspective, you make better decisions. I have seen it 1,000, 100 million times. When you have more diversity, you're going to have better decisions and make better business choices. So I'm inspired. Thank you. Right on. I'm also inspired by this guy. So you don't know him probably, but his name is Eric Martineau. And he is one of the co-founders of Infusionsoft. And here he is at about 20 years old. And at the time, he made a decision, instead of deciding to build software in Microsoft Access, he decided to use a thing called Java and MySQL and host this application on our own servers. The word cloud didn't even really exist yet. And I think it was called ASP or something like that back in those days. Citrix was a version of that. I see some heads nodding here. And that was super forward thinking back in 2002, to feel like that there was going to be another way to host and deliver software. And so we started as a software as a service company and have been ever since, and will be forever, because that's just the way you do it now. But I'm inspired by Eric at that young age and the value that he and his brother Scott were able to create through the Infusionsoft CRM and marketing automation app. It's just, over the last 12 months, we talk about the billions through the App Store, right? Over the last 12 months, Infusionsoft has processed over $2.5 billion on behalf of our small business customers all around the world. That feels really good, to stand in front of my servers at the data center, which is actually just about a par 5 distance from here across the freeway at Phoenix Nap, and to look at all the blinking lights. Man, I love them because what do all those blinking lights mean? In fact, there are when you have big racks of servers, there's buttons on the front and the back that light up blue to let you know when you have a whole stack of servers and you go back to the other side to say, oh, well, it's this one that I was working on the back of it. Well, usually that means there's something wrong and you have to go and fix it. I have all my guys turn all the lights on all the time, just so there's more lights on. Because lights just light me up. And that just means that small businesses are succeeding. They're making things happen. The technology is actually working for them in their world. So I'm inspired by Eric. This is where we started, over in Mesa, in between a physical therapy shop and the mattress barn, in a little corner office that felt like a closet more than an office. And, 4 offices later and, over 10 years, I've been there almost 10 years. We're over in South Chandler, and you're all welcome to come and take the tour. We do tours of the office, and we're really proud of it and where we're at and where we're going. And in many ways, we just feel like we're getting started right now. Okay, so Mobile Empowers. So this is Liz Anderson, Elizabeth, good friend of mine, Infusionsoft customer. And Liz had a problem. She's a fitness instructor, and she would go to these fitness conferences, much like out here in the vendor pavilion today. At this conference, you have different booths, trade show booths, and fish bowls, and people would throw their card in, right? Well, she would get that big fish bowl of cards, and it would take her a few days to type those cards into her Infusionsoft CRM. And then she would hire somebody to come and do that, to just get those contact records inside of her database. Well, we made this application called Snap, where you just take a picture of the card, and it sends the image to a human being over in the Philippines, and they type it in, and it goes right into your Infusionsoft app. I think it's about 30 seconds. Okay, and so it literally changed her world. Just that little thing. It gave her a couple days back every time she would go to a conference of just doing rudimentary data entry. And so to really change somebody's world, you don't have to make something that is ridiculously complex or too overreaching. Something simple can make a very big difference. And that's what our Snap app did for Elizabeth. It really, really empowered her. Okay, of all the things so we know small businesses really well. And of all the things that take up their time, generating leads, having money to invest in ideas, managing everything themselves, they wear a lot of hats. Okay, the number one thing that takes about 70% of their time, 70% of them say their biggest problem rather is time to get everything done. Just like Elizabeth, we just put a couple days a month back into her calendar to grow her business. I should hold it over the receiver here. So since we launched Snap, entrepreneurs all across the world have put in over 200,000 of these cards, which we're super proud of. Just think how much time that's putting back into the stream of commerce for these small businesses around the world. Okay, so I mentioned that we're about 13 years old. Well, we've learned a few things about mobile, and so as technologists, hopefully here's some things that I can share with you that will help you in your particular world and your jobs right now. Okay, so here's some things that we've learned. All right, create a mobile-first platform. Now, this might sound no duh, right? But a lot of companies, they didn't start mobile first. Infusionsoft sure didn't. I mean, mobile didn't even exist back then. I mean, that's the phone I had back then, right? Actually, I didn't really. I just like that picture. It really, That's the phone I had. I bet you a lot of you had that phone right there, T-Mobile. Yeah. We weren't even mobile second really. We just didn't we didn't even have that on our radar, and so it's been a big challenge for us to take this code base and have it become mobile aware, to the point where we're actually now building the small business success platform that's mobile first from the ground up. So that's something you really got to do, is think forward and talk with your colleagues about the trade-offs between just refactoring the type of code base you have right now or building something as a platform from the ground up. Infusionsoft has an application with an API. Okay, that's very different from having a platform. Okay, so there's a lot of definitions of platform. That's kind of a slippery word. It can mean many, many different things. So here's my definition of a real platform. To really have a true platform, all of your development needs to interact with itself through APIs. Not through direct calls, but through APIs. So all interactions of your technology needs to interact through APIs. Okay, so here's another thing we learned. You can't just build an app. You have to build, as part of your platform, an ecosystem, okay, of partners, of customers, even your financiers, your venture capital, and even your bank. You really need to have a whole family of ecosystem members to make this work. I mean, say you have a great app, but there's no app store. There's no ecosystem to plug that into. That's the type of idea that I'm trying to get across here, that you have to be holistic in your thinking about your mobile platform, including all of the different constituent players that are going to contribute to your success. Okay, here's another thing we learned. People don't want your product. No, they want a benefit. And here, let me tell you a little story about this. I learned this over and over and over as a software professional. Just last week, we had a thing, we have an event every other month or so at Infusionsoft called Implementation Accelerator. So we bring in customers, they pay for this service, and we like super accelerate them, kickstart them. It's the Implementation Accelerator. So I was talking with this woman at break. I love to go up and just talk to the customers, and I don't even tell them who I am. I just say, hey, tell me about yourself, and you know, what do you do? What's your business? And how do you use Infusionsoft? How do you like it? And she said, you know, Mark, you know, I'm just getting a headache with all these contact records, campaigns, triggers, workflow automation, step sequences, timers. I just want more people in my yoga class. Okay? You see the difference there? She was, and of course, I always fall back as a technologist into being in love with all of the first things I said, the technology and the feature. But she just wants more people in her yoga class. She just wants the benefit of what that all is supposed to be built to give her. And so customers, they don't want your product. They want the benefit. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's a good one. Okay, here's another good one. Better, not more. And that is hard for engineers. It's hard for me. Make something better instead of making it more. There's a similar idea called the law of least astonishment. Okay, I got this from Jeffrey Moore. He wrote Crossing the Chasm, probably the foremost authoritative book on technology marketing that exists. Jeffrey's a good friend of mine. He's on our board of directors, known him for many years. And Jeffrey, a few years ago, he said, Mark, you need to focus on the law of least astonishment. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And he told me the law of least astonishment is to do it normal. Do it normal first before you do it bells and whistles. And guess what? Normal almost always wins, particularly with what he calls he has like early adopters, pragmatics, where you cross the chasm into the early majority, and there's late majority laggards. There's all the different stages of the technology adoption life cycle. It's a well-established model in the technology analysis world, and he said to get over to the pragmatics in the early adopter stage, to cross that chasm between the early adopters and the pragmatics, then you need to focus on the law of least astonishment. This is a good one. Always check yourself. Am I making this normal first, or am I trying to do bells and whistles right now? Okay. Okay, and here's another mantra that I beat the drum on all the time. Guys, version 1 is better than version none. Version 1 is always better than version none. And I usually say always like that with a big exclamation point. Get it out there. And there's a bunch of books that say the same thing, Getting Real and Lean Startup and everything, which I love. I love all of those ideas, and it just strengthens this maxim too. Get it out there. Get it in the hands of your customers and get real feedback. And here, that leads to this right here. Okay, when testing, okay, trust the behaviors, not surveys. Watch them. Okay, watch the people who are interacting with your product. Don't prompt them. Don't tell them how to do it or explain it or how brilliant it was to get it to where it is. Just watch them, and you'll see that really makes a huge difference in the takeaways and the learnings, the validated learnings that you get from the hypothesis you're putting out there to try to test and validate. Okay? Okay. Mobile is a miracle. The internet is a miracle. I look at my servers and how ridiculously complex they are, and I'm amazed the damn things even turn on sometimes. I mean, so many things could go wrong. And the amount of just human intelligence that goes into building these infrastructures of internet and connected networks and mobile platforms, it just is a miracle. Really. It's a miracle that this is even happening. Okay, you remember back when I was a teenager and I was standing at the record store, at the sheet music stand, trying to memorize all that stuff? Okay, well, a few months ago I was asked to give a speech at Midwest Mobile Summit, and the event coordinator called me up a few weeks before the event and said, hey, we're doing an after party, and there's a great local band, D. Mill and the Thrills, Diane Mills, and they'd like you to sit. I play guitar, and they'd like you to sit in for a couple songs with them. You'd be willing to do that? I'm like, actually, sounds fun. Cool. Send me the songs, and I'll learn them, and then we'll have some fun with it. So hung up. So okay. So I told you the type of bands that I like 80s hair metal. Okay, so I get the two songs a couple days later in an email. The first one is What a Man by In Vogue and Salt and Pepper. Right? Okay, they are total hip-hop-y pop. I wasn't even sure there was guitar in the song. And okay, so this is the best part. The second song was by an artist. The contrast's a little off, but her hair is about that big, right? Amazing artist called Erykah Badu. Who's heard of Erykah? Awesome. She's amazing. I hadn't even heard of her before this, okay? So here's the name of the song. Annie Don't Wear No Panties. Well, that's funny. I mean, what does a metal guitar player do with Annie Don't Wear No Panties? But here's the thing. I went on YouTube. You see it right here. I took a little screen of it. I went on YouTube, and the miracle of mobile happened in my life. Instead of going down to the record store and trying to find this song, I had pages and pages of guitar tablature and videos and how-to and instructions in many languages on how to learn and play Erykah Badu, Annie Don't Wear No Panties. So in just a couple decades, we went from me trying, using my RAM, which is about 3, right? I remember about 3 things, and then you exceed my RAM capacity, right? To having literally almost the entirety of human knowledge in the palm of our hand. That is a miracle, folks. And I want you to feel that and really own it as technologists. and recognize the responsibility you have too to that fact. That mobile is really a miracle. So that was a lot of fun playing in that band. Here's the after party. I was over here, a little cold, wore my suit coat. Not typically a suit coat guy, but ton of fun with Diane and her band. All right, get this. So right now, about 73% of the world accesses the internet through their handheld. Okay, by 2017, it's going to be almost everybody. Okay, sometimes we don't feel that in the States here, but I'm telling you, you go overseas, and that's the way the world interacts with the internet, is through their handheld. And it's been that way for a long time, actually, overseas. Long time. So this is a wave coming. You know, when I talked about we're like halfway through the national anthem, you should feel that by looking at these numbers right here. Okay. So what are each of you going to do to change the world? You don't feel like that, oh, that's trite. You know, everybody in technology says I'm going to change the world, right? There's a bunch of great what's the sitcom that's popular? I love it anyway. It's about I think it's Entrepreneur or Silicon Valley or yeah. Okay, so you watch that, and every single other frame is we're going to change the world, you know. But I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all, and I want you to move past that resistance you might have into thinking that you can make that kind of a difference. Okay. 10 years ago, it seemed crazy to say, I'm going to change the world for small businesses. I'm doing it. All around the world. Okay? Each one of you can too. And I'm inviting you to really step into that as technologists. Own your part in making a difference in the world through mobile and the miracle that we have of mobile. Okay. Remember the hole-in-the-wall experiment? I was first introduced to that idea through this book called Abundance. I love this book. Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, they're X-Prize guys. And, you know, Larry and Sergey, here's how they decide what type of a project to take. Okay? So try this on, see how it feels. Okay? I now have a very simple metric I use. Are you working on something that can change the world, yes or no? No. There's no reason why every one of us shouldn't be asking that as we're engaging a new endeavor. That's the type of thinking that I'm inviting everybody to step up to really take on as a responsibility. Is this going to change the world? And it can even be something small. I changed the world for Liz Anderson through the software that my genius miracle workers over at Infusionsoft engineers put together, that Snap application that took a picture of a business card and pumped that data into her CRM. That literally changed her world. Okay. Let's do a little experiment, okay? Okay, I want everybody to reach up as high as you can. Okay, right now, high. Okay, high. Okay, now go higher. Okay. All right. Okay, that little experiment is to show you that you can stretch even further than when you think you've gone to your limit. Okay? As high as you can. Okay, higher. And there was more. Okay? So let that sink in. And when we talk about changing the world, push through that discomfort. Okay? I actually just did a TED Talk on the power of discomfort. You can go to markchesley.com and check it out. I think you'll like it. The power of discomfort, it's actually good for you. So push through that resistance in thinking that you're going to do something that's going to change the world, and just go for it. And that's it.
my name is Whitney. I'm with Intel. This is our first year at the Phoenix Mobile Festival, and really excited to be here. So we're with the Software Solutions group, specifically the Atom Scale Engineering team is the team I'm on. And so I'm going to be talking about Intel Indy today, and my coworker Ashok will be talking about the Intel XDK. We ask that you please hold all questions to the end. We'll also be doing the raffle at the end, so in case you just joined us, this should be in your little bag that you got, or you can get one from Mike at the back in the blue striped shirt. He's waving now. I think you all have already turned it in. And then Nancy up here can get them, or just fold them up and hand them to the ends of the aisle right now, and we'll get them. Okay, so with that, I think we'll get started. So basically my talk today is about Intel Indy. It's in beta. It's the integrated native developer experience. You don't have to go native, but if you already have legacy code or are interested in getting into it, this is a great place to start. So it's basically a quick start development tool for you to install your IDE and all your SDK tools. So let's take a look inside. So basically the IDEs we support are the Eclipse, Visual Studio. There's also Android Studio now. Once you install the application, you'll choose what IDE you want to install, and from there it'll install all of the tools. For host support, there's currently Windows 7 through 8.1. There's also Mac OS 10 coming soon, but in the meantime, there's a Mac OS 10 Build Edition. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the PC version has, but it still has some optimized C++ compiling, compatible with Xcode, and you can deploy applications for the Mac. And so our target support is Android 4.3, so Jelly Bean and up, and you can deploy for ARM and Intel architecture, and you can also deploy for Windows. So this tool is designed to be your one-stop tool for you to help you create, compile, analyze, and debug, and ship your application. It's going to help you with some samples and libraries for codes, some optimized C++ compilers, and it's going to help you do some frame and system debugging and analyzing, and then it's going to help you ship across platforms. So the whole environment and maintenance is designed with you, the developer involved, to allow you to be more productive and deliver a better experience to your users. It's going to help you develop quickly because it's your one-stop. You just go here. It's going to install your IDE, your SDK, your NDK, and a bunch of other tools with just a couple of clicks. You don't have to go to 6 different websites looking for them and finding them. It's all in one place. And then there's lots of support and documentation on the Intel website right now. It's going to help you step through, show you how to use it. And there's also a forum. So this is in beta, so we're still adding capabilities and expanding. So we want to hear what you want added to the tool and what's working for you, what's not working, because we want to create a tool that's really useful for you as a developer. And it's also designed to be future-proof, meaning it's going to automatically update your tools if that's what you set in the settings. Otherwise, it's just going to let you know that there's updates. That way, again, you don't have to go to different websites looking here and there to see if there's an update for your tool. It'll just let you know. So the environment setup, basically you're going to choose your IDE at the beginning, Eclipse, Visual Studio, or Android Studio, and from there it's just going to download the SDK, NDK, design, the Visual Studio Android plugin, that's your IDE, and it's also going to download the Intel Hardware Accelerated Execution Manager, HAXM for short, because as we all know, the Android SDK default emulator is really slow. You can go get a cup of coffee while it's booting. HAXM's not like that. It'll come right up, basically. And the reason it's so fast is because it's going to compile native x86 bytecode for you, so there's not the transition from ARM to x86. So once you've downloaded Intel Indy and you're ready to create, there's a number of tools here to help you get started. So there's some media, threading, and the code compute piler for OpenCL and RenderScript to help you get started. So for the media, it's all going to download with the media package in the Indy folder, and it's going to have some code samples for camera and screen capture, video editing, video streaming, including live streaming, and also audio fingerprinting for content recognition. And then you're going to get a bunch of thread building blocks with a bunch of pre-tested algorithms, things to help you do C++ coding. And it's also going to help you lower your system energy. Things that are all designed for you to have a higher performance and scalable application. Now that you've created your application, you're ready to compile it. So it's basically going to help you with C++ compiling. If you have some compute-intensive applications, compile it, and there should be some performance improvements. And it's also compatible with the GNU C++ compiler, so you can still deploy on ARM as well as Intel architecture. And again, the Code Compute compiler is going to help you with offline compilation and binary generation for OpenCL. So now that you've created and you've compiled your application, maybe you want to debug it now and do some system analysis to make it run faster. So there's a whole host of tools for that, so you can analyze your system and your frame and your platform to see what's going well, what's not, if there's any bottlenecks anywhere. So this is all designed to help you create games and graphics intense applications and just make them flawless. So the system analyzer, it's going to give you a bunch of graph metrics for your CPU and GPU. So you can choose what you want to display to compare them. You can put them together, right next to each other and see. And then there's a bunch of graphics overrides. So if you want to play around with some settings and maybe see if turning off this and that, if you can see see if there's some bottlenecks somewhere to help you there. Here is also where you can do a frame capture of the live GL state that you can use later for the frame analyzer, which I'll get to in a minute. But first there's the platform analyzer, and this is just going to give you some trace analysis of your performance metrics, call tracing, and execution, again for OpenGL and DirectX. And then for the frame analysis, this is where you pull up your screenshot from the system analyzer, and it's basically going to give you a whole visual way to see what's going on. It's going to load your application live on your device, and then you can visually see all of the textures, all of the polygons, what's being rendered, and the draw calls, and see if that one little object is like in the background or maybe even off screen is stealing all of your performance. You can see that really easily and visually. And then there's frame debugging, so it's just going to help you debug any errors with your textures or vertices. And again, the Code Compute Builder, it's already helped you throughout the whole process of creating, building, and debugging and analyzing your application, and it's just designed to help you be more effective. And now you're probably ready to ship your application. So the target is Android 4.3, Jelly Bean and up. You can also deploy for Windows as well, and you can deploy on ARM and Intel architecture, so you don't have to limit yourself to one market share or the other. So that's Intel Indie. It's available for free download for a 12-month free license at intel.com/software/indie.com. You can follow us on Twitter or send an email to intel@indie.com, or go on the forum and ask questions, tell us what you want to see. So this is Intel Indie. There it is. Okay, let me resize it down. So this is Intel Indie. When you sign up and get your free license, you're going to have to create a username, and it's basically going to show you all of your tools that you can have installed. And then when you click on one, it's basically going to give you a description, what it is. When it's over here. No, not currently. It's not At least I can't. There we go. Okay. So it's going to show you what you have installed, what's waiting to be installed. You can also sort by what's installed, what has updates, or just show it all. They're going to get alerts after you install something, or if there's an error during your installation, it'll tell you here. And then when you click on one of these, it's going to give you a description of what it is, and then links directly to the product page, getting started guide, FAQ, and the support forum for it. It's going to have all of that right there for you. And here is our website. So here's the Indie website. Just a quick overview of what it is. You can click the Get It Now button to download it, install it. And then there's some tutorial videos. And if you scroll down to the bottom, again, it's going to tell you, it's going to show you links to the forum and other places to get started. So that's Intel Indie. My coworker Ashok is now going to talk about the XDK.
Okay. Whitney just talked about Intel Indie. It lets you develop cross-platform apps using native code. I'm going to talk about Intel XDK. It's also a cross-platform solution. Instead of native code, you would be developing cross-platform apps using HTML5. With Intel XDK, you can use one code base, which is based on HTML5, and target multiple platforms. It is a comprehensive solution with integrated IDE and integrated Intel build system, and also remote debugging and other features that I will go over. It's a free tool. You can download at xdk.intel.com. It is available on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. Before we jump into XDK features, I'm going to talk quickly about the difference between native apps and HTML5 apps. Native apps, you build native apps using the native language of the platform. In case of Android, you use Java. In case of iOS apps, you use the Objective-C or Swift language. The advantage with native apps is that you have full access to the native platform capabilities and APIs. It provides native user experience, and the UI and the performance is smooth and fast. In case of web apps, you use HTML5 code with your web development skills. It is you develop like a website, but make it look like an application. You can reach all the platforms, but you don't have access to the native APIs. And you don't have to go through app stores like in case of native apps. So you can kind of distribute your apps, but you will miss out on the app store marketing or distribution abilities. There is also another kind of app, hybrid HTML5 app, which is kind of falls in between native apps and web apps. In case of hybrid HTML5 apps, there is a native to web bridge that you can use to access the native platform capabilities. You have access to the native Play Store, and you have all the device sensors and all the device capabilities. So it's kind of like a sweet spot between native apps and web apps. It may not be suitable for all your use cases, like if you are looking for some performance heavy or graphics heavy apps, the hybrid HTML5 apps may not be suitable. But for most of the apps, I think this is a, with single code base, you can target a lot of platforms, and Intel XDK helps you build that. This is a quick, like a summary block diagram of the web app. Your web app is running on top of a browser, and the browser abstracts away all the native OS and the native platform. It runs its own container, like the capabilities are limited. It won't let you do all the things like a native app can do. It doesn't obviously have access to the native APIs. Here is a block diagram of hybrid HTML5 app. hybrid HTML5 app runs on a native web view instead of a browser, and you have a bridge usually implemented by PhoneGap or Cordova.js, and this bridge lets you access native platform features and APIs, sensors, things like that. And your hybrid HTML5 app will be talking to this bridge or the native web view. So XDK helps you take the HTML5 code, use the Cordova, the native bridge, and package them together to create hybrid HTML5 apps. The Intel XDK has an integrated build system where you can build your app for multiple platforms directly from the web XDK tool itself. It has a backend web server that automatically builds all your packages your app, and it actually even sends you an email when the build is done with the link to the APK that you can then upload to the Play Store. Similarly to other platforms as well. So now let's go into little bit more details about the XDK. The XDK itself is built using HTML5 technologies, so it can actually run on any of these platforms like Windows, OS X, and Linux. It uses a Node WebKit based backend. So the tool itself you can download on any platform, any platform of your choice. It comes with default templates and starter apps. You can just start from some of the samples or template apps, and so it's easy to get started. And within a few hours you can have a basic app running, targeting all these platforms. It also has support for multiple UI frameworks that are popular in the web industry, like Bootstrap, Twitter, and jQuery. XDK also integrates mobile services and widgets like Google Maps, and like full access to all the APIs like Mashery APIs. What it does is when you click on it, it will automatically add those libraries to your app, and it also provides a stub code where you can just copy paste into your mobile app. So it's an easy way to get access all these services. I will go over all the when we walk through the demo, I will show all the services that it supports. Intel also provides a optimized runtime called Crosswalk runtime, which is more performant on the Android platform. So it also helps you collect memory statistics and debug, remote debugging, or additional features like that. As I mentioned before, it also supports all the latest Apache Cordova APIs. In the develop phase, you want to have a user interface that lets you drag and drop like the typical IDE experience that you find. So XDK has that built in. It's called App Designer UI. You can quickly drag and drop any of the widgets or tool buttons or UI elements onto your app, and it has a round trip capability, meaning you can switch between a design mode and an editing mode. So you can drag and drop the controls and go back and modify the code and then continue the development. So it has that seamless experience. It will also let you edit JavaScript controls and configure these widgets, customize them even more. XDK uses Brackets editor. This is an open source editor available on Apache, sponsored by Apache Foundation. It's very comprehensive editor. It has all the features that you find in any typical editor. It lets you autocomplete and syntax highlighting. You don't have to use this editor. You can use your own editor if you want, but this editor is built into the XDK, so you can take advantage of the features that it provides. But if you have a preference for a different editor, you can use that as well, and continue your development with XDK with other tools that it has.
use of the cloud. But one of the most important things is a business has to have a commitment, make a deep, strong commitment to the mobile space. And that's going to benefit a lot of us because we're mobile. Most of us are mobile developers. But if you're in a business and you're working for a big company that hasn't quite committed, they're going to have to. Maybe you can help them do that. We've been doing mobile development platforms for a while now, and it really takes a lot of effort to do it right. As Mark was saying, a platform in his notion is described as APIs, services with APIs, and we are totally in that same space. And we totally agree. From a mobile device, everything's in the cloud. From a mobile device perspective, everything's in the cloud. Even if you have corporate servers in your corporate server rooms, whatever that may be, it doesn't matter. To a mobile device, it's the cloud. So part of that is how do you design software that meets the demands of mobile. Part of it is the proper technology. This again goes to building good APIs. It goes to can you do native apps or do HTML5? Do you do hybrid? All that has to be considered. That's important. And then the learning that an organization has to go through to get mobile right takes years. I mean, it's stunningly hard to believe that it's that way, but it's a fact. To get mobile right, it takes years, and it takes constant churning and trial and error and doing things right. Starbucks didn't get 4.5-star averages because they started last year. I can't remember when Starbucks started. Does anybody know? Was it 2011, 2010 Starbucks started with their apps? They spend millions of dollars even putting readers, in their coffee shops, right? They put a long-term commitment behind that, and there are other companies who haven't. And these are the ones I'm trying to talk to, try to let them know that if you want to make a strong commitment, you have to. You can't get around it, and you got to get help where you need it. And one of the first things to do is, it's crazy, but you have to revise your business practices. If you think about Starbucks and how initially, their thing was, give me your card, give me the cash, and I tuck it in, and all of a sudden it became a thing where a person would whip it out of their pocket. Not only did they whip it out of their pocket, they probably had their barcode thing ready, and they would just go like this, scan it. That's actually a business process change that requires a lot of thought and effort and a lot of expense on their part to do, and it requires an incredibly well thought out and designed mobile app, because that's what most people do, is they pull it out, they make their order, and they go beep, right? And then the other time people will buy money and put it on their rewards card or their debit card, if you will. But all that stuff has to be thought out and well designed. And so that's a big shift for many big corporations who, for the last 15, 20 years, have been doing websites. And all their databases and all their structures are tied to their website, as opposed to building APIs that they need to expose the mobile experience. So there's a really great book that came out this summer, targeted at businesses who need to learn how to do mobile well. And the book is called Mobile Mindshift. And they have created this process, which when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And it's kind of a process that I really want to start following in my business. We already kind of do this, but it's nice to talk about a process, and that is the idea cycle. The first thing you have to do, and we do it all the time, is identify the needs of the business. When we have a client, we always engage with them first. What is it you need? What is it that is important to you? And so that's the identify, and I felt that's pretty great. And then design. Design is important, and it extends beyond just the design of the user interface, which is really important to think about the design and the usage patterns, but also talks about the design of their system. High-level architecture, systems design, if you want to call it. And I love the word engineering, right? Because we are a software house, and we really care about the engineering effort of the software. I do believe that some of the companies that only had 2.5 stars probably didn't think of the full impact of the proper engineering they needed to do to get their systems built right. So instead of having 4.5 stars, they had 2 stars. And I think I think engineering is really key. And to be able to produce an outcome that's satisfactory is an incredible aspect of a great organization that can build great software. And lastly, analyze. This is the big deal. This is where I think how these companies get to 4.5 stars is they're putting analytics in their apps. They're listening and watching how people use it, and they are learning what usage patterns they're doing. And this is analytics is an incredible investment for a company to do this, because not only do they have to collect large sums of data, they actually have to then analyze it and run it through other systems that tell them what's going on. And so that, I think, is we all know about big data. It's been going on for the last couple of years, and we get it. But I think the average business needs to understand that their mobile devices are needed. You need to collect a certain amount of anonymous data that helps you build your apps better. And this is a thing, as a company who tries to help other businesses build software, it seems that everybody wants to stop at the engineering and be done. And when I also approach them, is that you're also not done just because we build you a system. You have to analyze it, and that's going to take time, effort, and money so you can get your product better. Oh, and by the way, we think the price tag is this. It's stunning to them because it's expensive, right? But that's the difference with some of these successful app companies, whether it's Hotels Tonight, which is just a smart startup, or the big giant Chase. They are definitely, they know what their users are doing, and they're putting that good work to make their app better. We can only be so lucky to be in mobile, and all your friends who aren't in mobile, by the way, are probably wishing they were. But anyway, so I think this is a pretty good future outlook, especially in the business side of things. So there, that was it. I'm done already.
So, last final question. How many iPhone users? Alright. Okay. How many Android? I always love doing this. How many Windows Phone users? Alright, there you go. Hardcore. I love it. That's my kind of guy. That's my big always answer. Is your Android bigger than my Windows Phone? No. Unless you have the So, and this one does not bend. So let's get into this. I don't have my teleprompter, so I have to make stuff up. So I don't know. So I'm not going to touch it because it was just disappearing. What Bluetooth is, Bluetooth Low LE, also known as 4.0, it is a protocol. It's not just the same as Bluetooth 3. It's a protocol that I believe that Bluetooth LE 4.0 is becoming. It's already just like USB became for PCs. That's what Bluetooth LE will be to mobile phones or mobile devices to connect with each other and talk. And it's a specification how to connect, and it's optimized for small bursts of data. So you could preserve battery. You probably notice early Bluetooth 2.0 or even earlier, if you use iPhone or anything, would drain your battery so quick. If you try to have Bluetooth headphones or something, that would. And if anybody had an experience of having first of the Bluetooth headsets and having microwave head, like whole head just beaming hot from this thing in your ear, I had that happen, and I had severe headaches. When I was doing that network marketing, I was 2,500 minutes a month on the phone, and we're talking about 6 years ago. That was like 1.0 Bluetooth. It looked cool walking around with that blue light, and I'm like, you live long and prosper, not with this thing in your head, And then the research showing like actually it does affect your body, stuff like that. So they come up with this specification to allow have wearables devices or something that will not consume the battery so quick and also connect. So it's very impressive battery life on these things, 1 to 2 years, depending what you're doing with them. but they're excellent for wearable and all kinds of sensors. And there was in the other room, this gentleman talked about actually garments that they're making now with the sensors embedded in them, like women's bra, or by guys. Well, like they're so small that they could actually embed in fabric for like swimmers, and he's doing like Ironman marathons and stuff to kind of do some kind of metrics on your body or some stuff. And so, of course, iWatch coming up. It's got really some cool sensors that they're breaking through. And Apple patented this as an iBeacon, but it's only specifications. So I'm going to talk about iBeacon today, kind of protocol. But so here you got more like wearable watches. This is the fuel band, Fitbit. I know Fitbit is kind of, once this news came out, they're trying to sell everything they can, because that's why I gave it back. It was like big, clunky. The watch was not really like, this is like 80s watches with pixelated numbers and stuff. So anyway, so they're great for wearable and sensors, and especially sensors. So let's focus. What are iBeacons or proximity location sensors? So I could relate this as like a lighthouse sending a beacon of light to inform of location. So you can think of them as so this is the Estimo beacon. I don't have any of them. They didn't make it in my luggage. I have a smaller one. This is one that I'm going to do the. Everyone gets one. You just have to go and sign up. I'll show you how to do it. And what they do, they're great for micro locations. So when you're indoor, you don't have it. Sometimes the GPS number one is not as accurate, and steel roofs and such will prevent you from getting the GPS. So they're also been coined as a geofence or indoor GPS, that you can actually set them as a locators, and your app can read them. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute. So they can be the iBeacons. They can be awakened by push notifications. So they can run in the background, very, very low consumption to your cycles or battery on the device. And of course, you can have in-app notifications, all kinds of stuff. But the most powerful thing is that they're not as invasive as NFC technology or other RFID stuff, because they're not getting any information from you. They're only sending you some data. Your app will determine whatever you set on your app to read and communicate to a web or server that, for example, you enter through. You can actually have them in the door. I was going to set up a couple, and you walk in, and your app will detect, and they actually could be directionally set. So very precise. You walk through, your app will detect the beam, and then it will notify that you clocked in, or maybe, and it also can determine your distance from the beacon. It's not super precise, but you can actually precisely triangulate from through, because it's just a burst, and it counts the waves, distance, and so. So the real applications, they're already Estimo started to sell these beacons. They're great for store apps, and I'm going to show their video kind of talking about that. This is the gimbal Qualcomm beacon, and there's I know PayPal has something that now you can do payments when you go through Home Depot. If they have it set up, you have a PayPal account, you allow them to do that. You don't have to touch your phone. Nobody has to scan anything, because you walk through the cash register. You send them notification from your app that, hey, this is my ID, this is authenticated. And they say, would you like to pay with your PayPal app? Then you say yes or no. So nobody can touch your phone and get the data like an NFC. So here is a scenario in in fact, you could be outside of the store beacon, so it could attract you. Come over here, we have 10% off or something, and then you walk through the door. It could read that you actually went through the door, and then it can pinpoint you to a certain location or about some items. Like women can look at some information about their things they shop for. Guys can go look at specs on the computers or bass boat or TVs or something. I know Best Buy has an app that you walk around with your app registered, and you stay around in front of the big screen TVs. It will start sending you 10% off on these ones you're seeing right now. So it's for advertising, and if you can tap into any of that, that's got really high demand. So if they can sell you on, get you a better experience as a customer, then so we like it. And somebody said, "Well, it will freak me out. Somebody called me by my name. I walk in the store." I said, "Not if you're expecting this, right?" So
if you don't have an app installed, and I just came from the privacy thing.
Now iOS 8 iOS 7 would not ask you. iOS 8 will not run. You have to give it permission to say, "Hey, my app will sense for beacons or scan for beacons."
So once you do that, you can potentially get like an opt-in. Hey, you're 100 feet away.
Yeah.
You're 100 feet away. Pops up. You want to download this app. Is that?
No, you have to, because you don't have any software on their phone. And the radio on the beacon, it will just get that light, or I would say beam of light, right? Or beam of wave of data. And then if you don't have anything to respond to it, it won't work. So you have to have an app.
Okay, so what this is this is the first page from their PDF. This is like their marketing material for material. Sorry about that. This is like their catchphrase. This is their mantra on what material is all about. I've read through it a bunch of times, and while the words all make sense to me, how they put them together don't necessarily. It seems like an artist wrote this, rather than someone that really wants to make sense of it. But what I'm going to do is we're going to parse through a lot of these different, a lot of those different key phrases that I highlighted. We're going to identify, pull that key phrase apart, and really understand what it means. So what we're going to do is we're going to step through these 5 different key items. We're going to dig into each of them and talk a little bit about what each of them means. Okay, unifying theory. So the first thing I want to talk about is this is not a design language for Android. This design language is designed to work across all platforms. Google would like the web to look like this, iOS to look like this, Android to look like this. Of course, let's be clear that Google doesn't always get what they want. But that's the vision for this. So I don't know if you guys have seen this slide, but it's a really good illustration of what they're trying to accomplish. You'll notice they have a tablet, a laptop, and a phone, all displaying different views of the same information. Now, the important thing to know is that doesn't mean that we scale up our UI to fit the tablet or to fit the laptop. It means we present our material in different ways on the different platforms. As you'll also notice, you can see that box, square box, which is where the content would be, appears the same size on all the different screens. That's what we're looking for. Your content will look the same across all platforms, but based on the size and the screen resolution, you'll be able to, you should present it in different ways. The other thing I just wanted to kind of put in a caveat here, we're not just talking screens that we know about, we're talking other screens too, like watches, Android TV, or Android Auto, for instance. This is the common paradigm they want to use across everything. All right, so also very important to their concept is this motion and tactile reality, where if you look at some of the design, it's probably out of batteries. Sorry. Yeah, it's probably out of batteries. I didn't plug it in, so thanks. If you look at some of the design Google I/O videos, for instance, where you can listen to the designers talk about the process behind how they decided to do these things with material. They spent a lot of time looking at how information is presented across the past 2 millenniums, right? So they looked at thousands of years of data presentation, and particularly on paper using ink, right? Common metaphor of books, paintings, all those things. They looked at that metaphor and tried to figure out how that metaphor, which is something we're all used to and becomes part of our psyches and becomes a experience that we're all used to, how they can leverage the best features of that, great design that's been around forever, and leverage the digital reality that this is material that lives within a digital device, and we can do certain things with it. So, one more quote, and I think this is the last one I have in the presentation. I'll just read it to you. We challenge ourselves to create a visual language for our users that synthesizes the classic principles of good design with the innovation and possibility of technology and science. So, mesh classic design and classic ways of presenting information to users with the modern techniques of digital design. So, this is the classic principle of good design, right? A picture, the Da Vinci picture that is presenting a concept and describing it, or even classic Egyptian hieroglyphy that is organized in columns and is colored ink on a piece of paper. These are all concepts that we've all grown up with. I mean, books are obviously the same, text. So they've taken this metaphor that we're all comfortable with and moved it into the digital world.
That can be a little bit of a learning curve. I would say that a normal developer can be very proficient within 3 months in iOS and Android and Windows Phone, if you're good at C#. How long would it take, do you think, to learn Objective-C and iOS environment, Java and Android environment, C# and the XAML framework? Do you think that all 3 environments can be conquered in 3 months? I don't even think you could learn one in 3 months. Maybe I'm just a slow learner, but it's that daunting. Okay. So I've been talking here. Any questions before? I'm not going to leave questions just to the end here.
Just one. You mentioned jQuery members. What about Bootstrap UI?
Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a responsive UI, and it's fantastic. When do you think it's really great to use mobile web? I have no problem using mobile web. And I actually use it within Xamarin. I have web views within my app. And I can use Bootstrap UI, all of that within my app. I can even, the only thing is, instead of using PhoneGap, the neat thing about Xamarin is it has an entire library that allows me to plug into all of the JavaScript directly. I don't have to use PhoneGap's pre-built control set. Why do you think that would be limiting to use PhoneGap's pre-built control set? Anybody want to make a guess? How many controls do you think PhoneGap has made? Its library is limited. You can hit the contacts, you can hit phone, you can hit, it has about 15 to 20 things that you can hit. If you want to hit anything different, you have to go back to Objective-C and recompile a new control set within PhoneGap and then redeploy it as a PhoneGap control to use it. I don't have to do that here. I can hit all of the native iOS and all of the native Android, and then I can route that through my JavaScript interface if I need to. But generally, if I'm using web views, I'm using web views in my app to display what? Rich content like a book or something like that, or that. If I'm doing line of business buttons and clicks and stuff like that, I want to use native controls. I wouldn't be using a web view. So I can have that mix and match and that hybrid true interaction. Does that kind of make sense? So I don't have to give up one to have the other. So I'm not telling you give up mobile web entirely. I'm saying integrate it. So you should use Bootstrap UI, if you can. Okay. Did you have a...
And if you know how to do it.
I'm sorry?
Yes, you can use Bootstrap UI if you know how to do it.
So we were talking about, there's actually another version of Xamarin that just came out with 3.0. And this was in response to the people who did not want to learn Xcode and Android UX design, Xamarin Forms. That if you follow within the construct of that little library, it will build the UI automatically for you in Android and in iOS and Windows Phone automatically.
I have a single development stack. I know the web. I've built websites. I can build now a web-based mobile app and target the same customers with my existing skills. Part of the benefits of web when you get really web-centric is you don't need an app store approval process. Some of our presentation this morning during the keynote focused on, and so you need to click that button. You know why he had to explain to us that we needed to click that button? Because his app is stuck in the app approval process. When you build a website, there is no app approval process. There's no deployment process. There's no getting it into the hands of the customers of which version are you using. Hit the website, push refresh, and you have the latest code that I wanted you to have all the time. So which one's better? Well, it depends. What's your definition of better? So let's dig into each of those 5 and talk about the business value or the technological benefits of each. Ultimately, you're going to find some that are going to resonate with you, and that's going to be your choice. Ultimately, you may find that you really like the benefits in a different camp than you're in right now, and that's totally fine. Ultimately, it may be that you need to take what you've got and push it to customers and learn more. So don't necessarily drop everything because you found a better way, but understand that there are better ways out there. All the way native. All the way native. So the benefits here are I'm going to develop using native tools. When I'm in the iOS environment, I have a very specifically crafted iOS toolset, and they're very careful to ensure that my experience when developing iOS is perfect for iOS. Ultimately, I'll get the most performance, the most native look and feel, and segmented testing. This is really elegant. My iOS codebase only has to work on iOS. I don't need to test it on Android phones. My Android codebase only has to work on Android. It doesn't need to work on Symbian. And my Windows Store codebase doesn't need to work on phones at all. So I have these different segments of... Yeah, that was pretty funny. I have these different segments of code bases that target different testing environments, and I can kind of focus then on making that experience perfect for that platform. The downside is I wrote it for each platform. Ultimately, when you want to cover all the bases, this may be the environment that you need to go to. If you have a favorite platform, if your users are pushing you towards a certain platform, then this may be ideal. If you need that last little bit of performance, this is ideal. Well, what does the stack look like that we build this? Well, I've got Objective-C, I've got Java, I've got .NET, I've got C++, I've got all the skills applicable to each platform. My development environment, if I'm going for iOS, I must develop on a Mac. I'm sorry, Steve. Android, I need the Android SDK, and I'll either be in Eclipse or I'll be in Android Studio. There are other platforms that I can use there as well. If I'm building towards Windows Phone or Windows Store, I'm in Visual Studio. So we see those kind of silos starting to appear. So now when I'm debugging on the device probably. I may have an emulator, but for the most part I have a USB cable jacked into my computer and jacked into my phone, and I'm looking at it. Ultimately I'll get the best experience because I'll watch the phone do it, and that's wonderful. The build process, I have to build on a Mac for iOS. The Android client will likely build in hand. There are cloud providers that can make this process easier, where I just kind of upload my code and they hand me those built resources. But for the most part, I'm going to end up with a couple of machines doing builds, one for each type of platform. And then ultimately, I'm deploying to the App Store. Which means I need lots of lead time before I'm ready to publish to get it through that process. Any questions on native? Let's hit the next one. Cross-compile frameworks. This is really intriguing because I take the skill set that I know and I compile into those frameworks. So if my skills are in C#, I pick Xamarin Studio. If my skills are in Java, I pick Codename 1. Ruby has a cross-compile platform as well that allows you to write in Ruby and then compile into native code for all of the platforms. It's intriguing because I can take a lot of that business logic and I can put it in a central place. But as I compile, I still get that native performance. Probably I'm going to want to adjust the interfaces to best match the device's profile to make it look like an Android app and look like an iOS app. So there will be a little bit of code that will be specific to each platform. And also I'll probably need to dig into the documentation for each platform to understand how that platform handles this sensor. Because ultimately, I'm writing a native app. But anytime that I can take that code base and move it into a shared place, I have a net win because once I've established that that code base works successfully, it will work successfully in all of the platforms. Hopefully. So the major benefit here is I'm sharing code across those platforms. Major downside is I'm sharing this across all the platforms. I now have a bigger testing burden. If I change the code, I need to now test it in iOS and Android and Windows Store. Some argue that this is the best of both worlds. I love this part. Some argue that this is the worst of both worlds. Ultimately, as I'm debugging, I still need those native resources. So I'm still going to need a Mac with a USB plug into my iPhone. I'm still going to need Eclipse Studio probably to debug an Android app. So the skills that I'm using, now I'm in my native format, my native language. I'm comfortable in that language. I'll probably install a plugin into my IDE that will target each of the frameworks. Xamarin Studio is a plugin to Visual Studio, for example. And then the interesting thing is, as I'm debugging, usually I have to step outside my native tool into their platform tool. I fire up the iOS debugger, not the Xamarin debugger. I fire up Eclipse Studio to debug into my Android app. So now I'm kind of playing schizophrenia, and that's where we talk about it being perhaps the worst of both worlds, is that I still kind of have to need to know that other thing. But I wrote it in a garbage collected language. I didn't need to figure out how to count my references. Is that a net win? I actually learned this morning that in Objective-C, you don't have to do mallocs in C. So So ultimately, the build is still the same as that native build. I have a build platform for each target, and it's running its native thing. I have an iOS build on the back. Ant is building my Android content, and .NET MS Build is building my Windows content. And then I'm deploying it to the app stores. Any questions on cross-compiling? So why would I? Oh, go ahead.
So if you're not counting out references on this, isn't that kind of sloppy coding? Being able to eliminate iterations per program?
If I'm not counting references? It is, and that's a great argument of why, kind of JIT compiled languages that run in a VM are better than non-JIT compiled languages. The interesting thing is that Objective-C isn't in a VM. It's compiled to native code, but it still does that reference counting. That's what I like. I know about this much of Objective-C, so hopefully I didn't do that wrong. Is there another question at the back? I've got a question. So why would cross-compiling be better? What code base? Yeah. Why would it be worse?
Got a question about that.
Yep.
So, making the UI appear like it's a native application of the device would be very hard.
It depends on your toolchain. For example, Xamarin Forms is a great abstraction layer away from the interfaces where you say, hey, I've got some common controls. I've got a label, a text box, a menu system, and I'm going to build it to fit that. And then when I compile it into iOS, my menu is down at the bottom and I can click between the icons. And when I compile it on Windows Store, then I have this swipe experience where I see the little edge of the next pane. And so it's doing that abstraction layer to make it look native in each platform. But if you want it to be just so, what's a menu system on Android? Then, yeah, now you're digging into that platform and doing an experience specific for that. Ultimately, you're probably going to make the choice. Facebook does it one way. They want a single user experience across all devices that doesn't look anything like any of the devices. Or something on the other side, Gmail, where you have a very specifically embedded experience in each platform. Choose that place where you kind of want to fall, and that may also dictate how much you need to spend customizing your interface to each platform, or making it more towards your brand.
So I'm gonna talk to you. Who's familiar with IoT, the Internet of Things? Okay, so I'm gonna do kind of a quick little thing about IoT, but I really want to just show you some cool stuff. I want to hack and design some flows and show you how cool all of this stuff is coming. But I think to get there, we need a quick little history lesson on kind of the evolution of the internet. About 95, I know the internet's been around, ARPANET and stuff, a long time back in the 70s. But 1995 was kind of when you saw Netscape Navigator kind of hit the screen, maybe 94. And really, from then, even through now, the internet, I call it the internet for humans. It was kind of like, Google, all the search engines, Excite, everyone was racing to try to get search. Then you had a lot of chat and email. It was a way of just connecting people. And then the whole craze of e-commerce, right? Everyone wanted to sell stuff online. Then in around 2005, 2004-ish, became the race of REST APIs. And REST APIs really created this, it empowered mobile developers to start building really cool mobile apps using those REST APIs, right? So you needed REST APIs to do mobile. And then from that, we're still in an upward spike with mobile apps, mobile technology. We're at the mobile conference, the mobile festival. Mobile is showing no sign of slowing down. But nonetheless, that was kind of the era, 2005 through now and onwards. 2010-ish, we start seeing more interesting smart home devices. Things like Philips Hues, Belkin Wemos, and then of course Raspberry Pis and this whole movement of open source hardware, Arduinos, etc. This is still early young. The thing I dislike the most about this phase that we're in now is that every manufacturer has their own app for every smart home device they have, right? And if you're like me, I've got a Hue, I've got a Nest, I've got Insteons, I've got Belkin Wemos, light switches, outlet plugs, and all this stuff in my house. And you needed an app, a secure mesh network that you could have in your home, that's isolated in your home. You could choose whether or not you want to tether it to the internet or not. Your cars, Google self-driving cars and all of this stuff, it's getting more and more real, I think, every day. Just what if you had a multi-protocol, cross-protocol mesh network? What if every resource on that mesh network had an addressable UUID? I'm not saying IP address, because there's a ton of devices out there that don't have, like Philips Hue, for instance. It has, the hub itself has an IP address within your NATed home firewall, but each bulb does not have an IP address. They have like Zigbee ID numbers that are associated with the hub. But what if each one of those bulbs in your house could have a UUID, a unique identifier? This is getting interesting. The standard UUID address space is 2 to the 128th power. It's a lot of addresses. What if each UUID, a bulb, for instance, had a permission infrastructure on it that you could define which other UUIDs could discover me, could message me, could subscribe to me, or could configure me. Now we're starting to get serious about, people are paranoid about the security. People are paranoid, like someone, it was all over the news maybe 3 months ago about someone hacked into a baby monitor, was listening into a house. We had a conversation at lunch today that you're really at the mercy of these products, to determine how security conscious each one of these manufacturers was on the product, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But what I'm saying is when it's connected to this mesh network, what if we could have that granular or that control over security, including encryption of transport, encryption of payloads, where we could sleep at night and not be panicked that the robots are coming or listening, or NSA or whoever's listening.
Integration, tool, essentially. You drag and drop what systems you want to connect. You check the systems, you check the APIs, drag and drop, build the business logic. And that's about it. Seriously. And I'll pause because most of the times I'll get a reaction saying, tell me more, and I don't have anything more. So that's about it. You really publish and manage. That's about it. At this point, you click on a publish button, it goes into your corporate app store, you're done. You start managing the apps. There's obviously user role permissions, all of those things. There's some analytics. In a corporate environment, you want to see who's using the app, some behavioral analytics. Well, the business came and asked me, I need a CRM app, are they really using it? All of those analytics is all possible. Right? So that's the platform. Let's go and see a sample app which is done out of this. And I'm not talking about a survey app or something like that. So I'm talking about a true business app. So this is just an app for a salesperson. It just shows me all the activities. I got all the possible navigations. I'm going to sit down. I got vertical navigations, horizontal navigations. I can go look at my activities, the meetings I have in a map. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick one where I have enough data. That's why I'm clicking on everything. Okay, so I got my activities. It's a salesperson's app. It shows me my customers, my contacts, my leads. I'm going to go into Acme Corporation. It's going to show me all the contacts in that company, all the activities, all the leads I had, all the sales orders I had, which is an order management system. So the first three I integrated to a CRM. I'm integrating to an order management. I'm actually integrating to an agreements system. I'm looking into contract management, quotations, also profile, like LinkedIn profile. And I'm not just giving a view. I can actually go and maybe look into my sales order. I get all the details, item details, shipping details, everything, right? And it's all linked together. I can go back to my account. So, guess how much time it took to build this app? And I'm talking about integration to an SAP system, to a Salesforce system, to some custom systems, single sign-on, SAML 2.0, any other authentication that you have, Microsoft Active Directory integration, all of it.
20 minutes.
I wish. So this is a real life scenario. So when we went to the customer, they actually had about 6 months project, 4 months for development time, 7 people in the project, 2 months, about 8 weeks for testing and all of those things, right? Because they were using, I think, Absolute or Xamarin or one of those, and the integration, and they needed a authentication expert, people who knew SAP, people who knew Salesforce, couple of mobile app developers, wanted to run an Android, Apple, all of those things, mobile device management, 7 people project, 6 months, started on this. The development time on this was 3 weeks, and about 1.5 people, and one of them was an analyst. I got Sir, to raise your hand. He's an analyst. He's not a developer by profession. I actually hired him so that he could be my tester, so that when my developers develop the app, he can actually build test kit. Actually, it's more than that. But anyways, the point is 3 weeks for development, 3 weeks for testing, QA, UAT cycles and everything, deployment in 6 weeks, with about 1.5 to 2 weeks. So that hopefully gives you an idea in terms of the ROI, in terms of the value proposition, in terms of how fast can you do it using a platform.
I don't know specifically what languages you guys are familiar with. My first real serious language that I worked in was C, which is really good. It's the Latin of computer programming languages, and I think in many ways. There's a lot of C family of languages. Swift is one of them. Objective-C is another one. Apple actually calls Swift Objective-C without the C. And I disagree. It actually has very much of the same similar syntax you'll see in C language. I would actually say it's Objective-C without the small talk. If you guys do JavaScript a little bit, you'll see JavaScript is very lispy. You've got your C++, your C# and so forth, but Objective-C really, when they were looking at doing object-oriented C code, that was the language they chose, Smalltalk, because it was a purely object-oriented language. Part of why to do that is because Apple wants to sort of broaden the landscape, as it were. And I think and I'm going to talk a little bit about, there's an interesting aside to that. I was just asked some questions by a reporter for Cronkite News, and she asked me about Swift and where we're looking at it. And also in the greater context of mobile development, what I was seeing is like technologies and so forth. I told her one of the things that's really important to see is what's happening in the hybrid space. And I'm not going to talk a lot about hybrid, but this is sort of relates to Swift. And I talked about context switching. And if you guys have ever done any web development, pretty used to context switching. You can go through a board managed ASP. You can see all kinds of stuff in there. Hopefully not as well written, but so you can switch between HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You might have some JCL library that you're using. You might have a custom one, other tags. Someone might put scriptlets in there. Don't let them do that, by the way. So you have this kind of context switching. So the interesting thing that's happening is in the mobile space with this hybrid stuff, but also in Node with JavaScript and where the JavaScript community is coming, you're starting to see, well, here now your full stack can be primarily in one language, so you don't have to do that context switching. So from a native perspective, when you're doing a kind of hybrid app, you still have these APIs and so forth, or plugins that you might need to interface with the native world. And with Apple coming up with Swift, I think if you're to do a native from native code in Swift, if you're a JavaScript developer, it's kind of like listening to people speak in England when you are American, right? It's still the same language, it's slightly different, but you can pretty much grasp it for the most part. And that's Swift is similar to a lot of languages, but definitely I think the switching between Swift and JavaScript is very interesting and easy to do. And I put here that it's similar to modern C family of programming languages, and I list a few, but now I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but one of the Apple developers, when they let this out, they listed a bunch of languages that Swift was like, and I thought it was interesting that they didn't choose JavaScript, which is right now, like I said, has a lot of momentum behind it. So Objective-C, I have tweeted and mentioned a number of times because I think it's funny that it's Yoda's programming language. I like code to be very, very readable, and you can definitely write Objective-C code so that it's very, very readable. I've seen some really nice stuff, but I feel like in a general sense, coming from other C languages, that Objective-C is very, very different because of the smallpox syntax.
So what would it take for you to get involved? Now, of course, my slides are slightly leaning towards the JavaScript side, but again, it can be done in C# or in C++. You just create a new project, go to the language, you can replace JavaScript with language of your choice, and find a template under Store Apps called Universal Apps. So that's how you can get started with one from scratch or new. Well, actually, before I get to design considerations, let me talk about what that would mean as far as a project structure. So, if you're not familiar, I'm going to assume that a lot of you are familiar with Visual Studio in general, but just for the sake that there's even one of you that has never used it before, the simple thing is, Visual Studio manages all your code files and stuff in something called Solution Explorer, and it has folder-like access to your files, so that's pretty simple to understand. A solution can contain one or many projects, and so with a universal project or a universal app project, what you're going to have is a solution that will have 3 projects in it. Now, for those of you who know Visual Studio, what is typically the case with each project, no matter what you're doing in .NET or in Visual Studio, every project typically what? In terms of output? Either class library or what? So a DLL or an executable. Usually there's an output of some kind. Now, if you're writing a Windows Phone app or a Windows Store app, what is your ultimate deliverable that you need? A package. So, one thing I'll dispel right away, at least at this time, notice the little disclaimer, at this time, if you're going to create your app using universal apps, you will still need to deploy a separate package for the phone and for the Windows Store. Let that absorb. No output. That sounds kind of strange, but it's a phenomenal development environment because what it does is intelligent merging between your Windows Store app project, your Windows Phone project, and your shared project. It does an intelligent merge of those things. What do I mean by that? An intelligent merge. Well, here's the breakdown. Some might say, well, why don't you have the third project just be a DLL of some kind that both of the other projects could use? Would that make sense? Right? I can imagine thinking that way. Sure. The problem is that means you're using the entire DLL, and that's about it.
Different from all the devices so far before wearables is those can be exited. You know, those have an exit button. Like, you know, on the phones you have home screen button or a back button. On these devices, there are rarely any home buttons. So you need to think how your app should behave. You don't want to be sitting on it, let's say the full screen, right? You don't want it to be full screen and sitting there and eating the battery and obstructing the user or requiring him to close it down or, you know, try to figure out to close it. When you design it, you should also think that when am I going to finish this action and get back to the home screen. You have to design in your app that it is your responsibility to take them back to where they were. So it can be done two ways. One is automatic. Once the action is done, you just take them back, you close your intent or you close your application and take them back. Another one is they are not doing anything, you know, like the map. You have it there, it's sitting there, they saw it, and then they're driving, they just saw it, and their hands are busy, they're not doing anything. So you wait for a certain time, and then tell it that, okay, there's no activity on it for this many minutes, you know, 5 minutes or something, and 5 seconds or something, and then you just exit it. So that's how you handle the automatic exit. And these are automatic handling. Sometimes, you know, user automatically presses, or, you know, he comes there by accident, or he doesn't want it anymore, he just wants to manually go back. So how would you go back? There is no home button. So there you have to consider even sometimes forcing the user trying to exit from your app. So for that, there is one suggestion from the developer guide is that you should use the long press to exit. So when you code it, the long press on your application means that you're exiting your app. So if you have those kind of nice user-friendly interactions available to your app, user won't mind putting your app on the phone, pairing it, or on the wearable. If you try to be annoying, then you're in trouble. You need to think about designing it again. So there are certain patterns provided by the SDK or the Google developer website. You know, you need to follow certain patterns. They suggest that because now the actions, you see the notifications, what are you going to do about it? You swipe up, or, you know, to dismiss it, there's a certain action mentioned in there, you swipe from left to right. You dismiss that action, or you dismiss that notification. If it is, like, you want to know more, then you swipe from right to left. It opens up the description about it. So these are the actions or the patterns standardized and put there, given to us. If we follow the pattern, then whoever, let's say I have an entertainment app, then another person has a music app, and another person has a notification app. All of these guys follow the same guidelines, same patterns. You know, left to right means you're exiting, top to bottom means you're queuing through more options, and then right to left means you want more details, opening up those things. If you follow those design patterns, then there you go. Your app usability goes up. It's increased. Everybody knows how to use it. It's not taking time. It is fast. So there you go. You made a very good app by doing that on the wearable. And coming to the style of Android Wear, you know, there are, right now in the market, there are at least 3 kinds of watches. One, the LG watch, Samsung Gear Life rectangle, and then the Moto 360, which is circular, right? Android developers are very familiar with the fragmentation and the different screen size managements they have to do when they do an app, right? So I think now the Apple is also following. They have so many screen sizes, now they have to do the auto layout, follow this fragmentation stuff. On the wares also, we are not getting away with it. Because user wants choices, right? You can get away, I like round, or somebody likes rectangle. Nobody can force round on me, or nobody can force square on them. So it's like, you have options, so how do you do it? The actionable code, if developers, they all know that underneath the sheets, the code is all the same. It's the covering, how you wrap it, right?
StubHub says, and guess what? We can sell you a ticket to their concert in New Jersey. Your app might say, guess what? I'll give you the guitar chords for that. So you can download the guitar chords right away. I know our other presenter this morning would probably appreciate writing an app that would get him those guitar chords. Anyway, that could be you guys, giving that guitar chords app for Firefly. Third thing I want to talk about is the enhanced carousel. Day to day, this is the most useful thing for me on the Fire Phone. It's a way to get at the information from an app, your app, that is really valuable without actually having to open the application first. So imagine an email application where it shows you the most recent mails you've gotten, or a messaging application like WhatsApp that shows you the most recent messages you've gotten. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You don't have to open up the app, wait for it to load, and then go ahead and take a look. It's just information that's available there. So for example, on the Maps application, we show you the last few cities that you looked at. So if you want to tap and go back to one, you're more than welcome to. But try to think, what information from your app is really super valuable to users? And can you surface that to them really easily, really consistently, so they're getting a lot of value out of your app just every time they look at the front of their phone? Kind of a cool way to really integrate yourselves into part of your user's life, that easy. So getting your app on the phone actually doesn't have to be hard at all. The least amount of work you need to do is, well, pretty much nothing. As long as you aren't using any of the Google Play APIs, you can take your app that works on, say, a Moto X, and go ahead and sideload it to the Fire Phone. It'll probably just work, and you can submit it from a Google Play Store in about 30 minutes. As a matter of fact, if you can't go from Google Play to the Amazon App Store in less than 30 minutes, I will sit on the phone with you and walk you through it. It's that easy. It's a safe bet for me to make that. No one's ever taken me up on it yet. But it's really easy to do. On the other hand, if you want to start doing some basic to more advanced stuff, you could do the foundation controls with side panels. Side panels are nice. Side panels are when you take the phone and you tilt it gently one direction, you get back to a main menu. You tilt it gently the other direction and you come up with a context-sensitive menu. So everybody's got this habit of doing something while they're using their phone. And now instead of having to have a thumb that can reach all the way to the opposite corner of your device, all you have to do is tilt it to get to the menu, or tilt it to get to a context-sensitive menu. That's a really cool thing. Side question. To get full optimization, we're looking for dynamic perspective or Firefly. We're looking for that app widget, that active carousel thing I showed you. And you need to do the foundation controls and the side panels. Now, if you go through all the trouble of doing that, you actually get to be part of the App Store Developer Select Program. How many people have heard of the App Store Developer Select Program? All right, good thing I've got a couple slides on it. So the App Store Developer Select Program actually gives you enhanced merchandising. It puts your app in a more visible place on the device App Store. It gives you 500,000 free ad impressions with the Amazon ad services. It gives you Amazon coins, which you spend just like real money in our App Store, that incent users to download your app. As a matter of fact, we also give you coins that you can use to incent users to engage in your app. So if you've got a game, and you know that this game is irresistible as long as people can get past level 3. If they get to level 3 and not on, you've got them hooked. So what do you do to get them to level 3? You say, listen, get to level 3, and I'll give you 100 Amazon coins. Cool. So I'm getting incented to download it. I'm getting incented to use it. And then, well, then it's up to you to actually capture their attention and get them to love your app. But we're going to do everything we can to reward you for going the extra mile and optimizing your code. So what exactly do you have to do to get that? For the phone, well, you have to use all of the phone widget features that we talked about earlier. If it's a game, it needs to use our game services, which are basically leaderboards and achievements. If you use ads to monetize, please include our ad network. You don't have to use ours first. You don't have to use ours exclusively. We would just kind of like you to have it in there. If you're a Unity developer, you're in luck. How many Unity developers are here? Oh, okay, we don't need to talk about Unity development. Okay, we've got a Unity plugin for you, so that makes it really easy too. One of the nice things that comes with that is the peek feature that I told you about on the maps, where you can peek and you can see extra metadata about whatever object is on the main screen. That's available in the Dynamic Perspective SDK, kind of cool. We've got the tilt with the menus. What it's showing here is when the menu is tilted, now I've got a context-sensitive menu that is now sliding out from the right-hand side of the device. Tilt for side panel menus is something that comes with the Dynamic Perspective SDK. Firefly. Now this is really cool because the Firefly is probably one of the most fun features to use. When it recognizes something, like in this case a magazine, it creates something called a digital entity. And those entities have different properties. We call them facets. And the facets can be used in any number of ways. Like we talked about a facet. One of the facets might be it's a book facet. It also has a barcode facet. And it has, it's a product at Amazon. So it has an Amazon product facet. So it's got 3 of those facets. Your code may need all 3 of those, in which case, in your code, when you filter, Firefly is going to give your code an opportunity to say, here's something I found with these facets. Does your app know how to deal with this? You can say, well, actually, unless it has all of these required facets, I can't do anything with it. On the other hand, sometimes you may only need one facet, but would like information from the others if it's available. So you can use optional facets. Or you can say, listen, as long as you've got either a phone number, which is a facet, an email address, which is a facet, I can go ahead and instantiate my communications app and give someone a way of communicating, say, with an ad they saw on a community bulletin board. It's fun. You go up, you Firefly a bulletin board or someone's business card. It'll pull up their email address, it'll pull up their phone number, and give you an opportunity to call them or email them, because it will launch those particular apps with the intent. So it'll launch an email intent or it'll launch a phone intent. If you want to, you can also go ahead and deep link into your app directly, so you can go and do something specific in your app if you want as well.
Things that we do? Sure. So I got her on payroll, working minimum wage, full-time, so she's considered a second employee. And so now I had 2 employees. Now I was considered a small group. Now I could get these nice discounted rates that a group insurance plan has. So if you have that luxury of hiring your spouse, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, your brother, whatever, to help you out to do some of the tasks, or even maybe you want to hire a junior developer underneath you that's maybe your cousin, a relative, a friend, you can do that and get that cheaper insurance. So to do that, what I recommend you do is to talk to a broker. And a broker makes life a lot easier. You don't have to go walk around, go to Aetna and Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Health, all those places. They can help you find the best plan for your needs. They'll help you find your health, your dental, your vision, your life, your short-term, long-term insurance needs, whatever. Talk to them, they'll find it for you. Through my broker, I have found health, I have dental, I have vision, I have a great life insurance plan, so if anything were happening, my family's taken care of. And then I have short-term disability too. So these are all things that I pay for out of pocket. And again, everything we get to calculate a risk. This is just more insurance to make sure everything is going to be okay. And I'm willing to pay that premium up front. So talk to a broker. The nice thing is you don't have to pay them out of pocket. They get paid from the health insurance companies. So this is the last slide really on health insurance. And all I'm really saying to do is get in there, look at your decisions, look at your options, what you have to do, make a decision and move on. Because the longer you sit on this, the longer you're actually out finding clients, the longer you're not billing, not making a lot of money. So if you have a lot of questions about this, the best person to look for is a broker. You can just Google health insurance broker, Phoenix, health insurance broker, Denver, wherever you're from. And there's all kinds of them, and you can get a hold of one and they'll help you find the broker. What I do personally, again, your favorite insurance company is your favorite insurance company. My wife prefers Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have some Blue Cross Blue Shield websites, AZ Blue, here in Arizona. And we look for the broker section under there and found a list of brokers, and we just called up a couple until we found one we liked, and then we just told him our needs, filled out a couple pieces of paperwork, and then he went off to the races and found what was best for us. And that's what worked out really well for us. So let's get back to the consulting and freelancing. So the first thing is, how do I start? And the first thing is, as usual, when you be freelancing or consulting, is that you're going to need some clients. And the big question a lot of times is, where are these clients located? So, where are you going to find them? There's a couple of camps that you're going to fall into here. You're going to fall into the first camp, which is someone who has maybe already kind of built a name for yourself. People already want you to work for them. You already have a couple of people saying, hey, I need you to do project X, Y, and Z, and so forth. And that's a good camp to be in because you're already ahead of the game. So the next couple of minutes will just kind of be a review for you. And that's going to be where your pipeline is stopped. And if you're in this situation where you already have clients, then I definitely very excited for you because then you don't have to go out and do the digging already. So now if you're starting from a clean slate though, you're just kind of working a full-time job, got out of college, you want to do freelancing, you know that's what you want to do, you just can't stand working for the man. So then what you can do is start from a clean slate. There's a bunch of options out here. And so one, these are in no particular order really. So if you have a client, you find a lead, follow that lead. But there's a bunch of options here. If you're starting a clean slate, Odesk and Elance and Odesk merge, which is why there's only one of them up here. Odesk is a website, odesk.com you can go to. If you want to test out your waters, test everything out, there's two options I recommend you to see if you like consulting. One is go to Odesk, fill out a developer or basically a freelancer profile. Here's what I do, here's how much I charge per hour. And then as people start posting jobs, you can apply for them and say, here's how much I think it costs to do this job. You can do them that way. Or B, go to an actual consultancy here in wherever you live. For example, one in town here, it's Statera or New Desik. Go to a consulting agency and work there and see if you actually like doing that style of work of going into clients for 3 to 6 months and going to the next one. Consulting is not for everybody. Freelancing is not for everybody. Some people love it. Some people absolutely can't stand it, and it's not for them. I have got people into it who love it, and I've had an ex-college roommate who got into it and absolutely hated it and went back working full-time for a bank on the East Coast. So it's definitely something. If you know you want to do it, here's the option. So you go to Odesk, post something. You can use recruiters. A lot of people in the tech industry don't like recruiters. I feel opposite of them. I actually like recruiters because what they do is automatically extend your network reach. By default, they're very willing to help because by you helping them, and they're able to help you. And what I mean by that is they're looking for someone to fulfill a position for a COBOL programmer. I have no idea about COBOL or anyone who knows it anymore. But you know what? If I find anybody, I'll let you know. And you'll probably never run into them, but what you've done is you've now created a connection with that recruiter. And what I'll do in Gmail is I'll create a label. It's called Recruiter. And as they email me, I'll reply them back and say, I don't know anybody, but I'll let you know if I do, is one response. The second response is, if they send me something I might be interested in, but I'm already busy, oops, hope we don't crash there. We may have.
Good luck out.
Yeah, it crashed. Yeah, exactly. So, if we log in here real quick. So if you have that recruiter, you can actually reply to them and say, hey, this job posting looks interesting. I'm currently booked up at the moment. This changes every 3 to 6 months. Why don't you go ahead and email me back in about 3 months to check up, and we'll talk then. That creates an open loop. You can continue communicating with your client.
Result? The first letter is 8. 7, 3, 6, 0. They have to be here to win? They have to be here to act.
Closest to
360 going once.
Closest to the number?
I'm really close.
It was the dark side of the force that led me the first time. And this one. The last 3 digits are 3, 9, 9.
I don't know what to do with it. You accept it, you're stuck with lunch or dinner with me.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, let's take it. All right.
So the number is
5, 5, 3, 1.
all right.
484.
484. Going once.
You should do this every time, Kiran. I like your voice.
I need to check mine.
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
It's back.
There we go. Did you do the next session today?
I did not.
478.
3, 1, 8. 3, 1, 8. Come on over. Goes to Damien. 4, 1, 8.
So close.
4, 1, 8.
Oh!
Who's the other speaker? 4, 8, 2. 4, 8, 2. This one. 4, 5, 4. 4, 5, 4. You made it. That's Alex Feldman. Cool. Thank you guys. See you guys on next week.
I'm very interested in mobile technologies and I'm trying to get into the mobile development space. That was the primary reason I came down here, and I saw the agenda. It looked really good and I was really excited about it. Mainly, you know, the latest and the greatest when it comes to the iOS and the Android stacks, and also some design principles. And I was surprised. I really loved the privacy session as well. That was great. I would say pretty much like a 9 out of 10. It was really great. Yeah.
Well, I was actually very impressed by the way it was organized, and the vendor participation has been exceptional. I think that with time and continual process improvement, there will be more presenters and more in-depth, technical in-depth workshops where people can interactively become engaged. And I think that people learn by listening, but more so by doing. So by engaging the people in the effort, like in breakout workshops, I think is an opportunity that we have before us. But that again comes with maturation and more people.
Hello everyone. I would like to give a big thank you and shout out to all the speakers who did a really good job, and Phoenix Mobile Festival is rocking because of the speakers.
Thanks to all the attendees. I hope you guys liked the sessions and you left some feedback. We'll definitely consider that feedback for next year. We'll only make this event much better and much bigger next year.
And thanks to all the sponsors, you've been great. Thanks for the platinum sponsors as well as lunch sponsors. Great, thank you.
We'll all see you next year.